Hi, I'm meeting today with Rhea Light of Blessed Rebirth. We're gonna be talking about EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. I have discovered EFT through a friend of mine, and here's Rhea right now. So we'll go ahead and link her in. Sorry, I need to figure out how to do this. So hopefully hopefully it's linking up. Yeah, there we go. Okay, great. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. There we go. Let me adjust my camera. Yay. Good to see
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Hello, my love. So good to see you.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you as well for making the time to join me on this call. I've received such tremendous value from your EFT work, and I just really want to share about it with more people because it's so effective. And so yeah, I came across you through my friend Summer, who also worked with you and had really successful healing experience with you. And then she was recommended you by her friend, another friend of hers, David, I believe, who also worked with you and had a lot of, so it's like, it's just come down the line. And I've been in the healing arts for many years, 20 years, and I just have experienced such a tremendous value from it's the work itself, but it's also you. And it's the way that you hold space and the way that you guide the narrative, and you're so tuned in and you really know how to create these access points. And so, yeah, I wanted to make a call to, share more about EFT and share about your work.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I am really proud to say that all my clients are from clients recommending recommending me to their friends. So I haven't really put myself out there that much, but I feel like it's the biggest compliment, and so I'm really grateful for that. It's an honor. It's really an honor. And I think when we dive deep within ourselves with a specific modality, like I think it's really important to dive deep within that modality so that then we can hold that space adequately for others. It's like understanding that medicine. And so it took me that kind of journey of growth to be able to feel like, okay, like I can hold this in myself. I can hold this in others,
Yeah, I do know, because I know that healers, teachers, coaches, mentors, we step into that role because we've had the experience, like we've gone through the journey, we've been through it, and then we realize, wow, not only have I got so far in my own journey, I actually feel really called to hold this space for other people in some way, right? Like we can guide other people because it's like, trust me, I've been down the path. I know how this goes, where it's like, so you do, you work from your own experience. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you a little bit about just how, your journey with EFT, like how did you get into it?
Yeah, it's really funny, actually. It's, I was really kind of diving deep into the breath work first, which I love and highly recommend connected breathing as well. And one of my closest friends, who I call him my brother from another mother, Jeff, actually introduced me to EFT. He was like, hey, we're going to do a trade. And dang, that was a really powerful session. That first session it was seemingly such a little thing that I was working on. And all of a sudden, I'm really visual, but this was like, poof, something opened up. I saw, and I'm just getting chills just talking about it, but I saw my entire lineage of the women, specifically in my family line, in a circle, and they were in prayer around me. And then in that same session, I saw myself at 72 in this timeline. Explain that to me.
Wow.
This is like, okay, I don't know what's happening, but I telepathically communicated to myself, like, remember this moment, remember this medicine. And I just knew at that moment, okay, there's something there for me to explore. Like, my ancestors are on this tip, and they're behind me. They want me to go there. So that kind of like was the first introduction to it. you know? And then really like where I got deeper on that path was a really, really just difficult breakup. You know, it was like super traumatizing. Like I grew up in Europe, you know, and so it's like being in the States and stuff. It's, you know, my family was all over the place. So this was my family. And I felt like I lost like the closest person to me. And so I went on my first EFT retreat and holy wow, you know, I realized, dang, I've been the I'm fine girl my entire life. Always like holding it together, being strong, really like present for my experience, but not actually acknowledging myself truly. And that kind of cracked me open. It like really allowed me to unfold a little bit deeper in understanding myself more fully. And I found that the more I inhabited these parts of myself, I just kind of got deep into it. And there was a point at which I was like tapping a lot and tapping and breathing, like almost like, you know, multiple hours a day at one point. And just went so deep that I first off lost like 40 pounds, not even trying,
Wow.
just by like acknowledging all the stuff I'd held on to, you know? It's like it's all energy, right? And then I just became more me, you know, like it's a really, really enriching experience. There's nothing I can think of that's more enriching because you're
Yeah.
able to just be more present, you know, for your life and show up in that way.
Yeah. I mean, it creates a very clear path to going deep within. And I, in my work with you, have been working on the most traumatic breakup of my life, as you're well aware. And, you know, one of the things that I'm so like fascinated by with this EFT work is the way that, and I already have an awareness around how, you know, when we get triggered by things, yes, it's about the thing, but it's also about what the trigger relates to from our past. And typically it's something from childhood. So I understand that. And yet EFT just created such a clear access point to where, you know, it's like we just went deeper and deeper and deeper. It was like, yes, childhood and parents, and then going deeper into like ancestral lineage and even my soul journey. And, you know, where it's like all of a sudden, it's like at one point, it's like, it gets to a point where it's like, yeah, the breakup, but we're not even really talking about the breakup anymore. Now we're just talking about like this whole soul journey and like what this breakup, like the key that it offers, the medicine that it offers, so that I can unlock these parts of myself. And like you said, like become more of who I am. And actually, yeah, one of the questions I wanted to ask you about, because I also like I've worked a lot medicinally with psychedelics, and I've also enjoyed psychedelics a lot just recreationally. And so that's it recreationally, but it always was deep medicine too. And so that's an experience I'm very familiar with. And I've been really amazed actually at like how EFT has been very similar. EFT has been like a psychedelic journey with no psychedelics, and you know, and it's like within the duration of the time, and yes, there's the integration afterwards, but and it's just through this tapping. And so I'm just so curious, like why how does that work like that?
You know what? I chuckle because it's kind of something like it was like I've always been really into entheogenic experiences, and like I always refer to myself as somewhat of a psychonaut, like someone who likes to journey into the internal realms. And I remember after my first experience of breathwork being like, I'm going to make it my mission so that people can understand that they can like literally drop into this like really potent, ineffable space with their consciousness. And because I feel like medicines, a lot of people use medicine for work, and that's okay if that's what's right and resonant for you. But I have found on my path that medicine for me is a celebration. And I find a deeper point of integration for myself and understanding when I actually dive into that space consciously I'm directing it. This is not a conversation outside of me, because, you know, when you're sitting with plants, you're having a dialogue with a spirit, with an essence. It's alive,
Yeah.
you know? And so this is a dialogue, but I really wanted to explore that within myself in a sovereign way, you know? And so it is kind of like a little bit of a psychedelic journey. I've had a lot of people tell me that, like, whoa, like that feels like we just went through all these different fields of time. And I think the point of it is just that we have access to so much. You know, it's about refining our lens. It's about refining our awareness in such a way that, like, where do you want to go and how deep do you want to go? You can follow that thread, and it's going to bring a lot of rewards. Personally, with medicines like ayahuasca, it takes me a long time to integrate. I mean, I'm talking 6 months for me. Everyone's different, but like, when I do a breath session, when I do EFT, I feel like that integration is happening on a quantum level, on a physical level, but it's like I can handle it because I'm controlling the speed and it's within me, you know? So it all has its benefits, you know, everything is medicine in its own way, but I think it's really empowering to know that we have that access point. We don't have to go sit in a ceremony. You can actually, and these tools are your own, right? It's like, when you're in the session and you're feeling your feelings through the tapping and like these affirmations, really, like, you're the one feeling those feelings, and that's what's creating an alchemy within the self, right? So it's like, wow, I did that. I was able to recalibrate this on my own. I can literally do this at any point in time when I need it. I don't need to source outside of myself. I can. I can, and that's a bonus and a gift, but I don't have to, you know, and that's,
it's clean on the body, you know, there's nothing, you're not putting anything in the body to, because even substances, however pure they may be, it still is registered as a toxin for the body to have to digest. And, you know, sometimes there's a recovery period. So, I mean, it's nice to be able to have an option that's completely sober, that requires no need to process any kind of toxins, like through the liver, through the kidneys, you know?
Totally. And I think everyone's different too, you know, like every facilitator is going to have a different perspective. And so that's why it's like, you know, if you resonate with someone, go for that. You know, if you don't resonate with someone, don't go for that. There's someone else that's better for you. It's okay, you know? But like some people are more in the somatic, and like I being kind of more of a psychonaut, more of someone who's really into that like exploration of these liminal spaces of the inner vision, and I like to tap into that field, and I have for a long time. That's going to kind of be the frame in which you know, my sessions are contained within. And it's also about, you know, this quantum existence. Like I feel like there's a calibration throughout all time that can happen. Like we can access our inner child, but we can also access our 72-year-old self. So we can gain that wisdom no matter what, you know, but it's possible. It's for anyone, right?
And that's
which
what
is
I mean.
Freaking cool.
Like with the, like, you know, when I've done ayahuasca, I've really spanned timelines and different lifetimes that my soul has gone through. And I found that through EFT, I was doing the same. And the visual aspect too. I'm also a very visual person, and the visual aspect that, like, I got some visuals that just like, they were so powerful and meaningful, like the symbolism behind, and it's like etched in my mind now, like, and so when I think about these images, it just like brings that energy, that power back to me, like in the moment. And it's so beautiful. And I just wonder for you, this is kind of like, there's no right or wrong answer to this. It's kind of I'm just really curious for you as a facilitator of this medicine and guiding people through these journeys. I wonder, like, what has it shown you about the human organism and healing? Like you've witnessed so many people tap into all these different layers and different timelines. And, you know, it's like, that must like kind of show you something about like this human organism. And I'm so curious, just like what comes up for you.
I mean, there's a lot of different angles that I can take this. I'm going to start with the somatics, like the body. So first off, what I have observed is that there's a body relationship to our emotional experience, to our spiritual experience. Like they are interconnected, and all avenues are access points, you know? Um, Within that, you can also access epigenetic and generational trauma. Sometimes that's what gets trapped in the body. And I've seen it in sessions, you know, where people are like tapping into, holy moly, that was my great grandmother. She was in a fire, you know, or like murders. I mean, I've heard some, obviously I work with trauma, so I've heard a lot of,
Yeah.
you know, I hear a lot of, yeah, painful stories, which it's not always easy, you know, to like, I definitely went through a period of disillusionment, you know, like, God damn. And simultaneously, it's like what you learn from that. The main thread that I have to say for people to know is that like most of this stuff is actually, it's passed down. It's not conscious, you know? And when we bring it into the conscious field, then we start to have directional power. We can do something with that energy, you know? So that's the biggest thing is that, you know, we all, generally speaking, like everyone has an experience of safety and love being withheld. We all want to be seen. We all want to be acknowledged and understood across the board, you
Yeah.
know? And some people pattern that out in a violent way, and some people pattern it out by erasing themselves or, you know, there's so many different ways that that shows up. But, oof, this goes deeper. Okay, now I'm getting a little more inspired here. But the thing is that, you know, once that experience is held, like, and once we understand that it's epigenetic and that it was like passed down behavior, it just like we start to get into more of a compassionate field, not condoning the behavior, but understanding like, whoa, this is like, you know, patterned out. Now, the interesting thing about that, and what I like to geek out about is there, you know, when we're born with like billions of different potential neural network connections. And, you know, what I'm finding over the years is like, okay, there's these like main highways that start to get built in our neural networks, and the neural networks really kind of determine our behavior and our patterns. So it's like, you know, think of your brain as like a processing unit, and it's like, oh, like, I was bullied by a blonde-haired kid when I was a kid. Okay, so beware of blonde boys. You know what I mean? Like something as silly as that sounds super inconsequential, but actually like frames your perspective and frames like your actions on a subconscious way. So through EFT, through these access points, we can actually repattern those neural networks, which then repatterns our experience of the hologram that we're seeing and interacting with.
Yeah,
You
yeah. I mean, the piece about what we inherit
know?
as we come into this life, what we inherit from our lineage and how it imprints our bodies, and how if we're lucky enough to become aware of this and actually do work to repattern, how powerful it is to recognize all the places in our physical body that we've been holding and armoring, and you know, all the places where we've been like even absent from our bodies. You know, it's like it's like that understanding of like, yeah, I mean, and it makes so much sense when you think about it. I mean, these bodies we inherited from the union of two people, and that combination of those two people and that specific configuration of how that came together to create who us, and then we're born, and then, you know, it's just because this isn't common knowledge, you know, it's not just like in the world of like, okay, make sure when you're like around 25 to start doing your, you know, reprogramming to, you know, but it's astrologically, actually, it's kind of interesting now that I speak on that piece, because it's like astrologically we have our Saturn return, and, you know, it's, they say that our brains aren't fully formed until we're about 25. And then we have this, you know, this cosmic initiation that happens for everybody around like 28 to 30, when there's just a natural influence that's basically offering an opportunity to take a really solid look at oneself and like, okay, what is from the past that I'm leaving behind, childhood and just old programming, not me, and what am I moving forward with? And again, this is for, you know, maybe people experience, you know, people, I think everybody experiences it, whether they know that that's what they're going through or not. And then I think there's some people that know. I knew what I was going through when I was going through, and I was like, and
the Saturn return is a thing.
It was powerful. But anyhow, coming back to it, it's like, yeah, just how amazing it is. Like, these human bodies are like these biological technology suits. And I feel like EFT is a way that we tap into it and help to, yeah, like you said, repattern and clear and heal. And so how does EFT work exactly? I mean, you're sitting there, you're like tapping, you know, and you're saying these things, you know, and it's like, but like, how does
it's weird, right? You wouldn't think. I mean, it's kind of awkward when you first do it. You're kind of like, I remember being like, I don't know. But it's really actually pretty elegant. So it's based on the Chinese meridian system. So when you're tapping, you don't need to tap aggressively. You just send these like gentle micro percussions is what we call them. And we're hitting these meridian points in the system. So what that does is it stimulates our chi and activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So you could literally be in a situation where you're experiencing anxiety or some sort of trigger or fear, and you can straight up tap your index and your thumb or your chest, and your body within a few minutes will start to feel calm, which will allow you to then drop into conscious exploration of what's going on. So when we're in an EFT session, what we're doing is we're basically self-triggering, right? So we're tapping, so we're signaling the body that we're safe. And then we're self-triggering specific things that we would deem issues in our life. And as those rise, maybe we're feeling that emotional charge that normally and naturally the impulse would be to run away. But because we're signaling to our body that we're safe, we're able to actually then go into it and then process it. So it accesses that parasympathetic. It allows you to self-trigger, and then we use the charge and the emotions and somatics to drop into the space and bring harmony and neutrality.
Does each center correspond then to like a organ system? Like when you say the Chinese meridian system, is it like the heart? And
yes.
You know, it's like I don't know what they would all be, but
yeah. So they correspond to different organs, and also in body intelligence and the emotional body map, they correspond to certain emotions as well.
Mm-hmm. And then you're tapping while guiding. There's a narrative that's being played, right? And so. And I felt like you're so good at running the narrative and guiding through the narrative. You're so good at tuning into like how to guide the ship. And yeah, so how, like, share about that, like about
what's that process?
Yeah.
So this is a refinement that happened over the years just from like doing the thing, you know. But basically, so I like to in the initial stage of the session drop into a conversation, and I'm over here as an outside perspective observing. I'm observing where the tones are fluctuating. I'm observing the emotional response in the face. I'm observing there's certain, I don't know, the best way I can explain it is that I see highlights, I hear highlights just from the subtlety of the voice and where the charge is. And as I'm writing it down, it basically creates a frame and template for the session. In that way, it allows us to really be in integrity with what's going on for you, rather than my trying to control your experience, because that doesn't work, you know?
Right.
Like, you really have to just meet people where they are. And, you know, for someone that's wanting to like play with this technique for themselves, like what I would say is, you know, what helps me, because it's like, it's much easier to be facilitated than to self-facilitate because you're in it. So it's like it's hard to always get that bird's eye view, but it can help to record yourself talking about a thing that's bothering you, and to notice, like, where is my voice shaking? You know, like, where do I start to tear up? And those are going to be those tracking points of like, oh, that's tender right there. That's a pathway right there. So wherever that emotion is most charged is going to be that key, and that's where we're going to go. And then it's going to lead us deeper down the thread. Now, when I work with clients, there's an arc. There's an overarching arc that I'm kind of like following. I'm keeping in mind, like, okay, why did they come to me in the first place? as we're moving through the motions, right? And then going deeper and deeper. And I'm holding that arc within my consciousness and allowing them to go where they're going, seeing where that's that, you know, they're showing me. But yeah, that's basically how I do it. You know, a big part of it too is rating the intensity. We don't do it just to like, we do it because rating intensities and then like measuring yourself as you're going about your process actually gives your brain a opportunity to refile the issue. So it's like, oh, that's actually shifted from a 9 to a 7. Okay. And then it literally registers like, oh, that's actually less of an issue for me right now, you know? And so it's about really retraining also in that new baseline so we
Yeah.
can fortify those new neural networks.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
found so I do a lot of work on myself. I do tons of healing work and self-development and just personal development work. And I really, for the most part, really prefer to work alone with that. But I feel like with this work, with EFT, it actually has been so nice for me to have your facilitation. And I don't know, I guess in a sense for me to feel, well, first of all, to feel witnessed in my experience, what has been really powerful. And also like the letting go of control and giving you the control over not like, I mean, I know I'm in control. You're definitely letting me guide, but you're also really like I'm also like giving a lot up to you to guide me as well. And it reminds me of how like with performance art, so I have been a performance artist for a long time, and I always am amazed at how like the audience has no idea. And I don't know if this is how it is for everybody, but how it is for me is like the audience has no idea I'm going through a massive healing experience or like transformation experience when I'm on stage and being witnessed by people. It's a very powerful transformation and experience of becoming. And it's a very, very deep practice as well. But I felt like it was kind of the same thing, like being witnessed by you in me going through my journey. I feel like it actually added to the medicinal benefit. Like, I don't know if I would want to do it on my own. But
you know,
I guess it would be good to just like know like some basics and be able to sit down and like do some tapping. But I just found that like having the facilitation, we went so deep, and I have come so far in my heartbreak healing process because of it. Like so I've been working with you once a month for like 7 or 8 months now. And it's been like, it's like I'll work with you and it'll clear just like a thick layer of emotional stress and trauma and process. And I just like come out the other end of it like, whoo, like so much lighter and feeling so clear and grounded and centered and feeling connected and feeling like, okay, I'm back, you know, like, and so and then like the next month would go and then it would kind of build up again. It would kind of, all those layers would kind of build up, like new layers to process, you know, and I would dive back in with you and we'd clear those. And so it's been a whole journey of, you know, several months. And I can't even speak enough to how much I've benefited on this whole heartbreak healing journey that I've been on through your work. It's been amazing. Like that's why I wanted to do this call. It's like, I just want to share you and your work with more people. Cause when I find something that really works and that I find I receive a lot of value from it, like I just want to share it with everyone, you know, especially something
totally.
like this where it's like, you know, you're talking about, and the same, I've done breath work as well. And also like, I'm a believer, I'm a fan, like it, you know, where it's like these things that are so simple that we have access to anytime. And it's amazing. It's just like so simple of just like how to, like, it's almost like, again, this is like this biological technology suit. And it's almost like just knowing how to access how this works, you know? I mean, there's no manual with like, if you click this button and then this window pops up, you know?
Unfortunately not yet, but we're working on it. I think there's a collective global team here working on getting us all nicely embodied, you know?
Yeah.
which I'm so grateful for, because I'm seeing this like new wave of like people actually like really showing up, not just for, but like for the shadow work, you know, which is, that's where the gold is, my friends, is you got to bring and illuminate all those spaces, you know. And that's where like the real like growth edge is. But I'll
Yeah.
tell you one thing, like I still receive sessions and I freaking love it. Like it is so important because yeah, it's something that we can all do for ourselves and it's super beneficial, like, you know, maintenance kind of thing. But it's that aspect of being witnessed, you know? Like especially with people who veer towards self-healing modalities, like I know I was one of those people, like it tends to be like a hyper independence thing. Like, I'm going to heal this for myself and da da da. So it's important for us to also learn that we can lean in on others and that we can be safe to be vulnerable with others. And not just that, when you have someone outside of yourself that has experience with this type of work, they can offer a lens that's neutral and they can actually observe and perceive like, hey, where are the, you know, like exactly like I was tracking, you know, how I track with my sessions, they can track it for you in places where you might be blindsided because, you know, like I've definitely had that, like where I blindside myself because, you know, we're just so good at hiding things from ourselves or
Yeah.
baselining things that are like, oh, this is normal. And sometimes we need that outside perspective. You know,
Oh,
we're reflections. So
yeah,
yeah, thank you for that.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so I've been doing healing work with people for 20 years. I feel like I've done a lot of work on myself and I feel like pretty good with how I take care of myself in times of need. And I'm still a human. I still have experiences where I need help too. I need support too. And it's just so helpful to have people like you in place where I'm just like, you know, because it's, we're not meant to do everything on our own, you know, just because I do this work doesn't mean like I shouldn't also have to receive it. It's actually, yeah, it's really sweet to actually reach out and receive the work, you know? So I think that especially for people that work in some capacity with healing or psychology or coaching or teaching with mentoring with others, I think like we all need our own kind of like, you know, our own resource of like supports and guides that we go to.
And it's also
Definitely.
retraining, you know, like because part of what we're trying to heal is this aspect of neglect, right? It's like on some
Right.
level.
Yeah.
And so if we're creating that space where it's like, hey, I'm telling myself that I value myself so much that I'm actually going to go out of my way to create that space and template it out. And maybe what I need is someone outside of me that I can trust. You know, that's like,
Yeah.
that's an important thing to integrate. And that also reflects in
Yeah.
our value outward, you know. It's like then we're, oh, okay, like I'm actually like telling myself I'm worth that. I'm worth having that space held and I should have always had that love. And it's okay. I'm
Yeah.
doing it
And
now.
it's like, yeah, you know, it's so important to also have like the supports of friends and family in place, right? But like you know, when we're really going through it, our friends and family are only going to be able to support so far. They're not trained
Right.
psychologists and healers, and you know, like they can't. And that's not really. I mean, we can lean on them to a degree, but it gets to a point like when we go through there are some moments in life where what we're going through is so intense and it's so complex that like to expect that we're only going to lean on family and friends for support, I think that's overburdening those connections. And I think we're not actually like, they're not capable, like,
They're
you know,
not
we have to,
equipped
no,
necessarily for us
they're
to get
not.
that to get the quality that we're wanting or
Yeah. And
needing, you
so
know.
we need to have like a resource that we can grab into, you know, and whatever modality it is, you know. But I'm so glad I found you. I'm so glad Summer told me about you. She told me about you way back when she was going through her breakup, and I did like a mental, and then when I went through mine, she's like, you should really.
I know I remember
Yeah.
her telling me about you and I was like, well, you know, I'm not one of those pushy people. I'm like, no, when they're ready, they'll come to me. And like, and that's another part of it. It's like, that's another part of that sovereign reclamation, right? It's like, you're in control now. You get to set the rules. of your experience. And so, and that's why I also tell people like, hey, this is my suggestion of pace or suggestion of this, and I want you to choose, you know, because that's a big part of that. It's like we're building back trust within ourselves and safety in our environment. So yeah, I'm grateful for that. And it's a great honor it's been a great honor to hold that space for you. So
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, is there anybody that EFT is not good for? Like, is there anyone that it wouldn't work for?
I love this question because the answer is no. I mean, I guess like if you don't have an interest in like self-exploration, you know, or like if you don't really like, because it's okay, that's harsh. I mean,
well,
okay.
I was just going to say, what about the people? Okay, so this has been my world for a long time, right? So we can get in and we kind of like speak the same language, and you tell me to do these things, and I'm like, okay, this is strange, but I'm just going to like do what she says, you know? But then, you know, do you ever come across people where it's like, this is very much not their world, you know? And, you know, like, is it hard for people to access the benefits of it that, you know, is there like a barrier if people are just like, you know, mentally like if they don't believe, like say they don't believe in it or something, right?
So here's my experience personally, because I can only speak to my personal experience. People who aren't wanting to access their emotional field, people who don't feel safe to go there yet, aren't going to come to me to do this work. Their friends might recommend that they do this work, their, you know, whatever it is, family. If they're not ready, they're not ready. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes, you know, there's a lot, unfortunately, you know, it's really interesting because emotional well-being is really like, it's actually like so underrated. I mean, we talk about mental health, we talk about physical health, we talk about like education, but we don't really talk about the emotional body like so much. It's kind of like still something that's a little bit like, oh, she has a lot of feelings over it. You know what I mean? And it's like, but there's not a moment in your day where you're not feeling feelings. Even if you're numb, that's a feeling, right? So, and with EFT, what's unique about it is that you don't have to go to the emotional, but it's a big part of it. Like I've had clients who come to me trying to work on physical things, purely physical. I mean, like cancers and things like that. And it always tracks to an emotional thing and an experience in the past. So it's like, I can't say it's not for anyone, but I will say that not everyone will go towards that work. But you know, even athletes will use it to optimize their performance. Like you can, through the manifestation taps, you know, like when they're trying to beat a certain time or they're trying to beat a certain weight, they will literally tap into the belief, because you can also you're shifting your beliefs. They'll tap into the belief and just keep it at that. You know, so it's actually pretty user friendly. And it can be used in a myriad of ways.
And so I wonder for the people that aren't
biased.
I wonder for the people who aren't quite ready to go into the depths of their emotions, you know, is when you recognize that in someone, is there kind of anything else that you suggest for them? Like, why don't you start with this? Like, why don't you start, you know, with this person over here or with that information over here, you know, like start with that and come back to me if you want to.
I find that, like, you know, honestly, yoga is actually a pretty good access point for people.
Oh, yeah.
It's a physical practice that whoopsies opens up certain emotional, you know, like it just kind of happens, but then you also feel good, right? Because you're getting endorphins from it as well, and you're using your breath. So that's an access point. You know, some people might veer towards, you know, I might say, maybe why don't you just try writing, you know, just free write and just burn it, you know, you don't have to show it to anyone, or, you know, you can change your vibe. You can do go the Abraham Hicks way and just put on some good music and good tunes. That's not my path. You know, my path is go in, go deeper, go home, or don't go home, go deeper. Or not, but you know, it's like we're all on our journeys and at different stages, and it's all perfect. So whatever it is that, you know, maybe it's running, maybe it's writing, maybe it's painting. It doesn't have to be like this. And it also, the process of acknowledging your emotions doesn't necessarily have to be a dramatic thing. It can be really light and fun. There's just so many different approaches that we can, but the main thing is to retrain ourselves, not to feel fear and not to feel like this point of resistance. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not serving our society. And I feel strongly about that. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder for you, because you've worked with so many people, so many different, you know, issues, and like, what are the, like, are there any main themes that you come across in your work where it's kind of like you just see like the common thread, like throughout everything, people like are generally like, there's these three things that people are generally across the board, like everyone's working with this stuff. And is there anything like that you
I mean, you know, generally speaking, we all kind of want the same things, which is like love, success, which means really just safety, financial safety and stability. But deeper than all that is a feeling of being seen, you know, just really truly being acknowledged and seen. And that's, I think, the thread across the board.
Yeah.
It's whatever it is, it's just that point, like that person didn't feel understood, acknowledged, seen, loved. And they made it about them, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, love, money, those are big ones. I'd say those are the two main ones that people will come to. Wants. Yeah. Yeah. Or like, you know, physical things, but that's more rare. You know, people, that's usually like a last resort for people. Like they tried a ton of different stuff and they're like, okay, let me try this way and see what that brings. And I'm like, all right, let's go there. You know,
do you find that a lot of people come to you that are kind of feeling ready and willing to do that deep dive into their emotion and their soul and into their healing process? Do you find that most people are just like, take me there, like I want to dive face first into all this stuff and just figure this out?
Yeah, so I have done my own personal tapping on this to really only work with people that are ready to go deep and show up in that way, because that's the type of space I'm wanting to hold, you know. I whether they've been exposed to this world or not. They can be totally new to this world, but they got to have a pull. And that's my choice and preference, because that's how I show up, and that's what I want people to value. I want people to value, people who come to me, to value their well-being and to value their peace and to value themselves. You know, and so, and that level of commitment is the type of thing I'll commit to showing up for as well. You know?
Yeah, I wonder for you too, because this work is so, it has the potential, and definitely in my experience has been very multidimensional, you know, and you've witnessed people, you've facilitated people through these processes where, like we said earlier, like they're tapping into timelines that are just, you know, and so I wonder for you, just, again, this is just like, no right or wrong answer, but I'm just so curious for you, like, you've really been exposed through this work to the multidimensionality of the human being, you know? So it's like, you have this idea. So it's like, in your opinion, like, what's really going on here? What's really going on in this? You know, we're so conditioned to believe that we are all this, there's this like, everything is separate, you know, and we're this body, and, you know, we're just here right now. And, you know, and so it's like, clearly there's something more.
Well,
like,
yeah, that's, I mean, okay, so here's what I've experienced and what I'm witnessing. What I think is that, and what I feel, it's all happening now. Everything that ever was, everything that ever will be, every part of your soul's imprint, now, in the past, and in the future, is all happening now. It sounds kind of crazy, but within yourself, the I is the center point. The I is the center point. And as we tap into that, we have access to all of it. And so to me, like this lifetime, because I have witnessed many of my lifetimes and have witnessed many of my clients' lifetimes. So I firmly believe that past lives and this is not my only life. And there's more than one lifetime that we get to go on a ride on. For me, this lifetime is about recalibrating all of it into this now, into this sacred vessel that is the access point. And how much can I refine my awareness so that I can really create consciously, not from something that was passed down, but something from my own sovereign choice and creative power, which is my birthright, right? So that's kind of what I think is going on. I think it's all happening right now, and that's why we can access it. And if we refine our awareness and we trust where we're going, like we trust ourselves to go there, we can really go anywhere and still be in our bodies, in a safe way. And really that we can, through our awareness and through our consciousness, really program the matrix, program the reality as we wish. And that's kind of, I think, the fun, why not?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, I love this topic because it's very psychedelic, and I just love I'm fascinated by it. And I believe in it. And then at the same time, it's such a mind bender, because it's like, okay, it's all happening now, but right now, this is what's happening. So it's like, but yeah, so there's this interesting thing. I guess I'm curious, is there something about, the way that we access ourselves through EFT or through when we're in the psychedelic experience and, DMT is being released in our bodies, and that also is an access point to this timeline that all is happening at the same time. I still don't know how to articulate how at any given moment we're just having this one experience, and then there seems to be a succession, we seem to grow older, and then we seem to have moments that kind of fade into the past, and eventually they're just okay, that was decades ago, a whole different lifetime ago, so I still don't fully understand it, but I know it's true. I mean, I've had moments where I've accessed my future self too. I've had moments where I've actually had these I don't really even know how to explain it, where I just all of a sudden I'm on a spaceship, and I'm in outer space on this giant spaceship, and where it's and it's not an imagination, and it's not a dream. It's that's a whole, where it's it's an alternate reality happening, even though I'm sitting at home and I'm reading my book, and then all of a sudden bam, this flash, right? I'm just fascinated about how it's again, it's everything just looks so just kind of what's right here is the only thing happening, but that's just clearly not.
Well, think about where we learned about what reality was. So it's on one level we're creating our reality, and on the other level there's something called consensus, right? So it's we have all agreed that I can't fly, that you can't fly, right? So we've all agreed this, we were told this is common fact in our reality. So a lot of our life experience, I think, is actually based on consensus. That's where linear time is being experienced. So in your soul inhabiting this physical experience, this lifetime, through consensus that was experienced in this lifetime where you are right now, that is probably framing. I can't say this for sure. That's just a feeling, right? I'm just letting that channel open up, but that's probably contributing to that feeling of linearity, and what I see is what I get. But then when we drop into the access point, then we see that reality is actually much more subtle and multi-layered than that, because consistently, if I'm tapping into my emotional field and my somatic experience, there's actually many things happening, and maybe those things happening like deja vus or other things, like a feeling that's familiar, maybe those are access points to something happening in another lifetime that's like calling for harmony. I think that it's all oof. So this is one perspective I really like to maintain as like my frame. But my feeling is that, you know, everything is love. The universe is love. That's like what source is. You know, I believe in a ineffable power that animates all. I don't like to necessarily put a specific name to it because I think that's really limiting. But within that ineffable, alive quality is its baseline frequency is love. And so through our experience, not just this lifetime, but all time, when there is an experience of love withheld, vibrationally that creates a field of dissonance meeting that resonance.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the patterns come back in order for us to integrate them into love. That's my feeling. I can't prove it. It's just how I feel. You know, and I think that that's, you know, that's kind of the approach I've taken with my own personal journey. Like,
yeah.
this is an opportunity. You know, this feels really edgy and uncomfortable and I don't want to be in my body. Okay, we're in an opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, so that is a really, and that's awesome, you know, to be like, all right, shit's hitting the fan, opportunity. Like, what do I want to integrate? You know, like, it's like, rather than like, well, and sometimes I crumble, you know, but it's my default to the opportunity is much quicker, you know, like it's like there's that immediate, like I'm crumbling, but I know there's gold there, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, bringing it back around to how EFT, and also in my experience, the psychedelic experience, how it does connect us to our, you know, speaking of multidimensionality and timelines, like I oftentimes feel a very direct connection to my ancestral lineage. And I get these experiences where the medicine journey that I'm on, and I've experienced this many times with you in the EFT work, is that I'm becoming aware through whatever my, like whatever the trauma situation that I'm focusing on with you or in my other experiences with healing work, it's like I'm seeing where it's almost like it was like a destined offering from my ancestors of like, here you go, we are entrusting you with this this moment of opportunity to correct this, to recalibrate, to redefine this, to heal, to transform this for my lineage, for my whole, you know. And it's so powerful to be in that moment and be like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm going through this situation, and yes, this is about me and how I feel and what I'm going through. But really, on the deeper level, when I access those points and where I'm just like, and it floors me, and it's such a, you talk about like, wow, what an honor to hold this space, right? It's like, wow, what an honor to hold this space for my lineage, and to through this experience, through this trauma, through this pain, and through the work that I'm doing in it, I have an opportunity to rewire and transform what it was that I inherited from my lineage that influenced me to create the situation that ended up being traumatic and painful.
And in the same way that it influenced you and became something for you to heal, your healing it influences them.
Yeah.
You know, as your inner child, like as my inner child receives this quality that's been withheld generationally, their inner child receives it too, because the pattern is broken, and that healing, we're connected. They're literally, we would not be here if it weren't for our ancestors. So we can judge them for their actions, or we can be grateful because you're here, you know, and it's a deep honor. And that's, really, I think, why that first vision I had was, you know, all my ancestors in prayer around me. And I've had that vision again and again, because I know, I feel them being like, yes, thank you.
Yeah. Well, because it's also, we're creating new patterns in ourselves so that should we decide to have children, that new pattern is what then gets passed down in our lineage.
Exactly.
Right. And so, and it was really powerful. One of my friends recently, she was talking about how she brought up this piece around like, 7 generations in the future, like the daughters of our lineage are going to be doing healing work for us in this lifetime. Right. And it's just like, oh, like that's because it's so true. Because I'm like how I feel like I'm doing with my lineage, at some point in the future, others are going to be doing it for themselves, but it's going to be like, affecting me too. And so, yeah, it was just such a beautiful kind of way, just a beautiful feeling that comes with that. We have just a few minutes left in the call. And so I just wanted to give time for you, if you have any, if you want to share about where to find you or any offerings you have or any announcements, I wanted to give space for that here at the end.
Thank you. Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me on this call. That was fun. Pop in my Instagram live, Cherry. Yes, so you can find me at blessedrebirth.com is my website, and at Blessed Rebirth is the Instagram. If you want to email me, info@blessedrebirth. And yeah, if you feel interested in working together, I'm taking on clients at this moment, but only clients wanting to really work long term. So really deep dive. And I'll be offering a couple of online offerings, like a probably 6-week series called Level Up soon, which you can, if you follow me on Instagram, Blessed Rebirth, you'll be able to access that. And then stay tuned, because I also have a bunch of online material coming out that's going to be more accessible for people. So these are little, 3-part videos that are thematic, and you get to kind of self-facilitate. So it's not quite a full one-on-one, but it's more than what you might get on a 10-minute tap on YouTube kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I want to add to all of that for you that, so when I first came to your work, Summer told me that she, got 10 sessions from you. And I was like, 10 sessions? Gosh, it seems like an awful lot. I was like, I don't know if I probably won't need 10, And so I remember being like, I think I just started with 1. I think I just was like, I'll just do this 1 and see how it goes. And then, after the 1, I was like, okay. And I remember you were like, yeah, I have like a 5-pack and a 10-pack. And I was like, ooh, that even still seems like a lot. I was like, I'll start with 3. So I think, yeah, I've now got 9, let's see, because I have received 7 and then I have 2 more, so it's like, it ended up being almost 10 anyways. And I'm so glad. And because it really is, there's like, it's a whole journey. It's not, it's like, once you get in there and then you see how much more there is to go. And then not only that, but if there's like for me, I was going through this traumatic breakup, right? And so it's very up for me. All the time, right? And so I needed the support. I needed the ongoing support. So I'm just sharing that for anyone interested to know that, like, you're probably going to need the 10 sessions. It sounds like a lot, but honestly, and I even I paid forward in the last couple ones that I'm going to get with you, just because I was like, even if I don't need them for like this specific, because I feel pretty good with the healing, but I still have these 2, and I still have a couple more pieces I want to focus on with you that doesn't even have to do with the breakup. That is more about like me and my my personal stuff. But I figured, like, you know what, I'm just going to pay forward for these 2, because at some point in my life I'm going to need this work again. So yeah, it's been incredibly effective. And I just thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for trusting me and allowing me to hold that space for you. It really truly is an honor. And, I really respect your journey, your healing journey, and everyone's healing journey. So it's really my greatest honor to be able to hold that. So thank you for allowing me to be in my purpose.
Yeah. Well, you do it well. And thank you so much for everyone for joining us for this call. And I hope it was inspiring or informative or supportive in some way. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, love.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.